Rain hammered against the windshield so hard that Catherine Mercer could barely see the road ahead. Her fingers tightened around the steering wheel. She glanced at the passenger seat where her husband's forgotten phone vibrated again. Igor calling. Again. And again. 3 calls in less than 5 minutes. Something about it made her stomach twist. Normally she would have ignored it. She respected Daniel's privacy. Tonight. She couldn't. The screen lit up once more. A preview of a text message appeared. If you don't cooperate tonight, your whole family becomes the problem. Catherine froze. Her heart skipped. Before she could even process the words, headlights exploded across her vision. A deafening horn. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Everything turned white. When Catherine opened her eyes, the rain had stopped. There was no pain. No blood. No sound. Only silence. She stood in the middle of the road. Confused. Shivering despite not feeling cold. A crowd surrounded a crushed SUV. People screamed. Someone cried for an ambulance. A firefighter ripped open the driver's door. Catherine stepped closer. Then stopped. Inside the wreck, she saw herself. Motionless. Eyes closed. Blood running across her forehead. No. She whispered. No, that's impossible. She reached toward the wreck. Her hand passed straight through the twisted metal. Her breath caught. She tried again. Nothing. No resistance. No touch. Only emptiness. A paramedic slowly shook his head. Another covered her body with a white sheet. Everything inside Catherine collapsed. She wasn't injured. She wasn't dreaming. She was dead. 24 hours earlier. Life still felt almost normal. Their house sat on the edge of a quiet Oregon neighborhood surrounded by pine trees. Nothing luxurious. Nothing extraordinary. Just home. Daniel was already dressed for work when Catherine walked into the kitchen carrying coffee. You barely slept. He forced a smile. I've had worse. She noticed the dark circles under his eyes. The unopened breakfast. The untouched coffee. Lately he looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy to share. You want to talk? It's work. It's always work. He sighed. Our biggest investor is pulling out. Igor thinks he has another solution. Catherine frowned. She hated hearing that man's name. Igor Volkov had entered Daniel's construction company only 18 months earlier. At first he seemed brilliant. Confident. Fearless. Within a year, everything changed. The company became richer. Daniel became miserable. Late-night meetings. Hidden contracts. Arguments. Lawyers. Calls that never stopped. You don't trust him. It wasn't a question. Daniel looked away. I don't know if I trust anyone anymore. After Daniel left, Catherine stood at the kitchen window watching his truck disappear. A strange uneasiness settled inside her. Not fear. Not exactly. More like the certainty that something invisible had already begun. She tried distracting herself with laundry. Cleaning. Paying bills. Nothing helped. That evening she opened an old wooden box she hadn't touched in years. Inside were letters from her grandmother. Evelyn Mercer had been an unusual woman. She never called herself psychic. Never claimed supernatural gifts. But she often spoke about instincts. About listening when the world became strangely quiet. One sentence had always stayed with Catherine. Sometimes danger whispers long before it screams. She smiled sadly. Her grandmother had died when Catherine was 16. She still missed her every day. Later that afternoon, Daniel came home earlier than expected. For the first time in weeks. He smiled. A miracle? She joked. Almost. He kissed her forehead. I actually cancelled tonight's meeting. You did? Igor's furious. Good. He'll survive. They laughed. A real laugh. Maybe the first in months. The boys burst into the kitchen seconds later. 12-year-old Ethan carrying a soccer ball. 8-year-old Noah chasing the family dog. The house suddenly felt alive again. For one evening, everything seemed normal. Until the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. Daniel's smile disappeared instantly. I know who that is. Catherine looked toward the front window. A black SUV idled outside. Igor stepped onto the porch wearing an expensive coat despite the warm evening. He never smiled with his eyes. Only with his mouth. Tell him I'm not here. Daniel shook his head. He already knows I am. Igor walked inside without waiting for permission. Sorry to interrupt family night. His voice was smooth. Almost friendly. Too friendly. We have a problem. Daniel folded his arms. It can wait. It can't. It waits. Igor's smile faded. You've become emotional lately. I've become careful. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Finally, Igor leaned closer. So, are you really willing to throw away everything we've built? Daniel answered quietly. I'd rather lose money than my conscience. Something cold flashed across Igor's face. Gone almost instantly. He straightened his jacket. Think carefully. Then he left. Without another word. That night, Daniel barely touched dinner. Around midnight, his phone began ringing. Over. And over. And over. Igor. 6 calls. 7. 8. Daniel finally silenced it. I'm done. He placed the phone on the kitchen counter. I'm not answering. Catherine felt relieved. For the first time in weeks. It felt like they were choosing peace. Neither of them noticed. Daniel had forgotten the phone when they went upstairs. An hour later. The screen lit up again. One final message arrived. Catherine happened to walk into the kitchen for a glass of water. She glanced down. Not intending to read it. Just enough to see, if you won't help me tonight, I'll solve the problem myself. A chill crawled across her spine. Not because of the words. Because she suddenly remembered something impossible. A dream. One she'd had 3 nights earlier. A house surrounded by flames. Children screaming. Someone standing across the street. Watching the fire. Without trying to stop it. She never saw the man's face. Only his silhouette. Holding an umbrella. Exactly like Igor always carried. Catherine stared at the phone. Her pulse racing. She didn't believe in ghosts. Or visions. Or fate. But every instinct inside her whispered the same thing. Something terrible was coming. And if she ignored it, her family would never see another sunrise. The rain began less than 10 minutes later. Catherine grabbed Daniel's phone, slipped on her coat, and headed for the car. She told herself she was overreacting. She only wanted to bring him the phone. Nothing more. Nothing less. Yet the farther she drove, the stronger the feeling became. Something was terribly wrong. Daniel's office occupied the top floor of an old brick warehouse near the river. Halfway there, Catherine noticed headlights approaching far too quickly from the opposite direction. For a split second, everything around her slowed. She saw another image. Not through the windshield, but inside her mind. Daniel. Standing outside their house. Flames climbing the walls. Their sons trapped upstairs. A man walking away without looking back. Then, a blinding flash. A horn. The violent impact. Darkness. When Catherine opened her eyes, she found herself standing in the middle of the road. The accident unfolded around her exactly as if she were watching a movie. People screamed. Sirens echoed through the night. She tried to shout. No one reacted. She reached for a police officer. Her hand passed straight through him. Panic consumed her. Then she heard a quiet voice behind her. You can't change this. She turned. An elderly woman stood beneath a streetlight. Simple gray coat. Silver hair. Calm eyes. I know you, Catherine whispered. The woman smiled sadly. You remember me. Her grandmother. Evelyn. Exactly as she had looked years before she died. Catherine ran toward her. But before she could embrace her, Evelyn stepped back. Not yet. I don't understand. You crossed the line. I don't want to be dead. No one ever does. Tears streamed down Catherine's face. My boys. My husband. They still need me. Evelyn looked toward the flashing ambulance lights. There is only one thing stronger than death. What? Love that refuses to leave. The world around them dissolved. Moments later, Catherine stood outside the hospital. She watched Daniel arrive. Someone had called him. He stumbled through the emergency entrance. Still wearing the same jacket she'd helped him choose that morning. He looked terrified. Broken. He kept repeating the same sentence. No. No. She was just here. When the doctor delivered the news, Daniel collapsed into a chair. Catherine had never seen him cry before. Not like this. She reached to touch his shoulder. Nothing. He couldn't feel her. She screamed his name. Nothing. For the first time. Being dead truly hurt. The funeral came 3 days later. Gray skies. Cold wind. Friends. Neighbors. Co-workers. Everyone spoke about what a wonderful wife and mother Catherine had been. None of it mattered. She wanted only one thing. To tell Daniel he wasn't alone. To tell Ethan and Noah she was still there. The boys stood silently beside the coffin. Ethan tried to be brave. Noah couldn't stop crying. Catherine knelt beside them. I love you. I'm still here. Neither child heard a word. Then, someone else did. A young woman standing near the cemetery entrance suddenly looked directly at Catherine. Not through her. At her. She frowned. Confused. Almost frightened. Catherine froze. The woman whispered. Who are you? Catherine couldn't believe it. Someone could actually see her. Her name was Emily Carter. 29 years old. A nurse. Single mother to a 4-year-old daughter named Lily. She had attended the funeral only because Catherine's accident had happened in front of the hospital where she worked. Ever since that night, she hadn't slept well. Sometimes she sensed someone standing nearby. Sometimes she heard whispers she couldn't explain. Now, she was staring directly at Catherine. I must be losing my mind, Emily murmured. No, Catherine said desperately. Please don't leave. Emily's breathing quickened. This isn't real. It has to be. I need your help. Emily backed away. No. I'm imagining this. You aren't. I have a daughter. I know. Emily's eyes widened. How do you know about Lily? I don't have much time. My family is in danger. Emily turned and hurried toward her car. She refused to look back. That evening strange things began happening inside Emily's apartment. Lily refused to enter her bedroom. She pointed toward the hallway. Mommy. The sad lady is crying. Emily's blood turned cold. She searched every room. Nothing. Still. The apartment suddenly felt occupied. As she tucked Lily into bed, a photograph fell from the bookshelf by itself. It landed face up. Emily picked it up. There, reflected in the glass, stood Catherine. Only for a second. Then she vanished. Emily nearly dropped the frame. What do you want from me? Silence. Then a whisper. So they can live. Meanwhile, Daniel buried himself in work. Grief became routine. He avoided the boys. Avoided friends. Avoided sleep. The only person constantly by his side was Igor. I'll take care of everything. You shouldn't worry about the company. You need time. His kindness felt almost rehearsed. Too perfect. Too convenient. Daniel didn't notice. But Catherine did. Every smile Igor gave never reached his eyes' point. One night Catherine followed him. Being a spirit had unexpected advantages. Walls meant nothing. Locked doors meant nothing. She watched Igor enter an abandoned warehouse near the docks. Another man waited inside. A gasoline can rested on the floor. Blueprints of Daniel's house covered the table. Catherine stared in horror. Igor pointed to the plans. We wait until he's asleep. The fire spreads fastest from here. He tapped the garage wall. The smoke reaches the children's bedrooms first. The second man hesitated. What if they're still inside? Igor answered without emotion. Then no witnesses remain. Catherine felt something inside her shatter. This wasn't revenge. It was murder. She rushed back to Emily. This time Emily didn't run. Catherine appeared trembling. They're going to kill them. Emily swallowed hard. What do I do? You have to warn Daniel. Why would he believe me? You have to make him. I don't even know him. You do now. Emily looked toward Lily sleeping peacefully on the couch. Fear filled her eyes. If I get involved, they'll think I'm insane. Catherine stepped closer. I know. But if you don't, my children die. Emily closed her eyes. For a long moment, she said nothing. Finally, she nodded. I'll try. Catherine whispered. Thank you. Emily barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Catherine standing in the smoke, repeating the same words. Tonight. Don't let them stay in that house. By sunrise, she had made her decision. She didn't care if Daniel thought she was crazy. If there was even the slightest chance Catherine was telling the truth, she couldn't ignore it. Daniel answered the door looking exhausted. His beard had grown in. His eyes were hollow from days without real sleep. Can I help you? My name is Emily Carter. I know who you are. You were at the hospital. Emily nodded. I need 5 minutes. I'm sorry, but I'm really not interested. It's about Catherine. Daniel's expression hardened. I've heard enough people tell me they had dreams about my wife. This isn't a dream. I'm sorry. He began closing the door. Then Emily quietly said, On the night you proposed, you dropped the engagement ring into the lake before you could ask her. Daniel froze. No one knew that story. Not even his parents. He had panicked, jumped into the freezing water, and Catherine had laughed so hard she cried before helping him search for the ring. It had always been their private memory. His voice trembled. How do you know that? Emily looked him straight in the eyes. Because Catherine told me. Daniel invited her inside. For over an hour, Emily repeated everything Catherine had shown her. The accident. The warehouse. The gasoline. Igor. The planned fire. Daniel listened without interrupting. Every rational part of his mind wanted to reject the story. But every detail about Catherine, every memory, every sentence, was impossible for a stranger to know. When Emily finished, silence filled the room. Finally, Daniel whispered. If she's really here, I need to know. At that exact moment, a framed family photograph fell from the wall. No windows were open. Nothing had touched it. The glass shattered across the floor. Behind the broken frame was a handwritten note Catherine had hidden years earlier during a home renovation. Daniel had forgotten it existed. It read, "No matter what happens, love always finds its way home." His knees nearly gave out. Tears filled his eyes. Katie. Across town. Igor made his final preparations. He had lost everything. Daniel had refused to sign fraudulent contracts. Their biggest investors were leaving. The company was collapsing. If Daniel died, the insurance payout and missing documents would erase every trace of Igor's crimes. In his mind, it was the perfect solution. That night, a black SUV rolled quietly onto Daniel's street. Igor stepped out carrying 2 gasoline containers. He moved quickly through the darkness. No hesitation. No guilt. Only calculation. From across the yard, Catherine watched helplessly. She tried screaming. She tried pushing him. Nothing worked. She was only a shadow. Inside the house, Daniel had already packed a small bag. Emily had convinced him to spend the night at a hotel. The boys were upstairs collecting their favorite toys. Just as they prepared to leave, Noah remembered something. My turtle. It's still in my room. Before anyone could stop him, the 8-year-old ran upstairs. At that exact second, a bottle shattered against the garage wall. Flames exploded instantly. The fire spread faster than anyone imagined. Smoke flooded the first floor. Daniel sprinted toward the stairs. Heat forced him back. Noah. Ethan screamed. Emily grabbed him before he ran into the fire. Outside, neighbors began calling 911. Sirens echoed in the distance. But they were too far away. The house was becoming an inferno. For the first time since her death, Catherine felt something changing. The invisible barrier that had kept her separated from the living began to crack. A voice, gentle and familiar, filled the air. Her grandmother. You have one chance. What do I do? Love has always been stronger than fear. The world around Catherine burst into brilliant white light inside the burning house. Noah had collapsed from the smoke. He couldn't breathe. Suddenly, a cool breeze swept through the hallway. The flames bent away from him. A bedroom door that had been jammed shut slowly creaked open by itself. Noah looked up. For just a second, he saw his mother. Not as a ghost. Not frightening. Just smiling. She reached out her hand. Come on, sweetheart. The boy stood, following her voice. Step by step. Toward the stairs. Toward the light. Outside. Daniel saw the impossible. Noah emerged through the smoke alone. The instant his son crossed the doorway, part of the roof collapsed behind him. Seconds later, the entire upstairs was consumed by flames. Daniel fell to his knees, holding both boys as tightly as he could. He looked toward the burning window. For the briefest moment, he saw the silhouette of Catherine, standing peacefully, watching over them. Then, she was gone. Police arrested Igor less than an hour later. A security camera from a nearby house had captured everything. The gasoline. The break-in. The fire. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Igor confessed, not out of remorse, but because he believed there was no way out. He admitted he had planned the attack for weeks. Daniel had simply become an obstacle to his greed. Months passed. The Mercer family moved into a small rental home while rebuilding their lives. Nothing could replace what they had lost. But every evening, Daniel made sure they ate dinner together. They laughed more, talked more, held each other a little tighter. Because they understood how quickly everything could disappear. One autumn afternoon, Emily visited Catherine's grave. Lily placed a small bouquet of white daisies beside the headstone. "Mommy, the nice lady isn't sad anymore." Emily smiled softly. "I know." A warm breeze rustled the trees. The clouds parted. For just an instant, sunlight illuminated the stone. Emily closed her eyes. "Thank you." Somewhere beyond the wind, she thought she heard a familiar voice. "Take care of them." Daniel never remarried. Years later, he would tell his sons that heroes don't always wear uniforms or save lives in ways the world can see. Sometimes, a hero is simply a mother who refuses to stop protecting her family, even after death.